So, anyway, so it's a very important halacha. It happens, my wife is out, I come home for lunch, and I don't have a Hashem, and I have it once a week now, twice a week, but it's a problem of yichud, and she knows I leave the door open. It is, you have to be careful of yichud. But anyways, so the Chazal said, really, your own wife is also yichud. Right, she's a Nidah, she had a period, you can't be together for the next 12 days. So there should be, you're alone with her, you're all alone, and so do that out like this. That's what he explains. It's very interesting how the Tzemach Tzedek says it. Really, theoretically speaking, we should say, is a yichud by one wife, but it's impossible. That's impossible to run a house.
Don't say impossible.
It's
very
difficult.
hard. Very difficult.
Very difficult. But another reason, it's not so tempting. Why? Once you were intimate with her, and and this later she will be mutter. You understand? Your wife. Let me explain what that I was trying to say over here. There's a din when you get married, and if your wife is not clean, you cannot be alone with her. Newlyweds whose wife is a Nidah, which is extremely, extremely difficult. It happens once in a while. I had once one of the Shluchim over here, his daughter, he called me up the day of the wedding. He and his wife were both crying. The daughter got the period the day of the wedding. It is very difficult because the couple cannot go home and sleep alone. So how to do it, and he has a bunch of children. I don't go into now detail another time with another part of Shulchan, but the Chassan Kala cannot be alone because they were never alone. And so the din is once there was one beer, they were intimate once. So even though the next night you got a period, that Chazal said, Chazal understood our Yetzirah better than we. They knew once they had an intimate
relation. Yeah.
Relation. Once you have intimate relation, you'll be able to control it, you'll be able to wait. So there's two things. If once she was okay to you, means there was once she was heter, and we passed in, it's not enough heter, you have to be intimate, because that happens, that night at the wedding, they were exhausted and couldn't be together. We have there's two opinions about it, but the Rav brings down, once it was an intimate relationship, and right now, 12 days later, she'll go to the mikveh, so you could be alone. These are the two criteria. But if you were married and she never was okay for you, you can't be alone. And if a lady cannot, what happens if a lady is also for the husband? The Marshal, the Rabbi brings down, there's a famous Gemara, Lach Hashem, today we don't have this problem, but there were times that every time a lady was with her husband, she would get a period. That's called Roye Machmas Tashmish. Today we know how to heal this 1, 2, 3. I always say to myself, and I remind myself every day, not only did Rabbi Hashem bless us that I came with a car, I didn't come with a horse and buggy, I didn't walk 3 miles, but also he made Halacha so much easier. This doesn't happen. The argument today do not hear this. That there used to be when a woman is intimate, she would get a period. And they know how to fix these things today. Not a big problem. Anyway, so he says, but Davke, look at the apprentice, Tartabi, and you need both. Ain't heter v'siroi. Let's say there's no heter for her. Avde ein yitzroi tokvoi. Like we learned in Rose, Gimel Machmas Tashmish, if 3 times. That means 3 times you were intimate with your wife, she bled, is Usa. A guy knows his wife had an affair, he knows he can't be any more alone. I'll make it better. You don't have to go so I don't know why he brings this marshal. A wife of a kohen or a chamun Islam was raped. If it's a wife of a kohen, she was raped, she cannot be with her husband anymore. So Mela, even though he would want, he doesn't want to divorce, the famous Mishnah in Sechtes Ksubas, but he had, the Mishnah says, he can only be with her with Adam. Can't be alone, because even though she was your wife for 20 years, since now you're wife of a kohen and she was raped, you cannot live together, so there's a Issei Yichud. So a kohen's wife, who was unfortunately raped, she becomes us to her husband. I'm going to go into that right now. So he says, I want to skip this, but I will tell you, someone asked me to shal.
If he doesn't get divorced for the kohen, can he just remain married to her?
Yeah,
and
but
become a
the
Pole, or
Mishnah
whatever?
says, I think it's Charia Kohen, there's a Mishnah in the Srs04 Ksubis, that a wife of a Kohen was kidnapped. And the husband didn't know if there was she was raped or not. And if a wife of a Kohen kidnapped, she becomes also. He didn't want to divorce us, and Heather says, right, but you cannot be alone. You have to have always two people, or wait, problem of Yichud. If you have children, whatever. I'm not going to go to Hilchos now. Another time we'll go. But he had to avoid Yichud. He didn't have to get it, but he has to make sure there's no Yichud. Anyways, so the Rav, I wanted to say the parenthesis, it brings a shala. I was once asked a shala where a lady, unfortunately, was going through chemotherapy, and the doctor said she cannot go to the mikveh.
But for 2 years.
Yeah, well, that's a big question. How long?
What does it mean that she'll be compromised?
Well, yeah, hopefully, but you don't know how long. And the doctor hoped that's going to be 2 years. But is there a problem of Yisiyachid? Now, many Chayim hold that if it's 2 years, it is a problem.
You say that the problem is because now she's not military at all. It's not like
She had a period, and she's not allowed to go to the mikveh. So
Right.
the question is, now that, let's say right now, going through chemotherapy today,
I'm saying a regular person, their wife, she's gonna be able to
Yes.
have the mikveh, so it's not no
so
problem.
you don't so it's going to be okay.
A couple weeks, whatever.
12, if the doctor says in 2 years, that's a really serious problem.
So what's the time limit that?
That's a good question, the place. How much? Even that Tzedek brings in parentheses, it doesn't say. I don't want to go into these parentheses, it's a little too complicated, so I just want to emphasize there's such a concept of Issa Yichud. And doesn't make a difference. My shiksa, Balabam would say it's my shiksa. If you would see my shiksa, you would. Doesn't make a difference. Shiksa. And a mother-in-law is a mother-in-law. Doesn't make a difference. So someone asked me, someone just recently asked me, same problem. That his wife had a baby, and I say you can't stay in the apartment.
I'll tell you again.
You can't stay in the apartment. There's a problem of this yichud. So he had one baby, and his mother,
The wife was in the hospital, the mother-in-law moved into the house.
the mother was in the house. So in Yom Tov, she went to the hospital, his wife, and his mother-in-law was there, and the mother-in-law with the baby is a year and a half. There's a problem with
That's
yichud.
not old enough.
No.
What's the age?
The age has to be able. First of all, one child is never enough at night. There has to be an age of a child to talk and knows what's going on. And one child is never enough. Maybe 3 children will be good enough. One child is surely not good enough. And even though you hate your mother-in-law, it's a hara could make it in 2 minutes. The love and hate together work together.
So it doesn't matter what age, like she
Doesn't make a difference age, even if she's 98 years old and a foot in the grave. Doesn't matter. Okay. Anyway, so he says,
The words, don't go away.
Yesh heter goes before the parentheses. Yesh heter lisa achas v'nusa v'tvusa v'yitzei tofu kol kach v'chatir chazal yichid ishtanida. Because he had one intimacy with her, and even though she's also, he knows that 12 days maximum, on average, she'll be able to go to the mikveh. So Mamela, there is no Yisayid. But, very, very important, says the Rav. But, we have to be very careful. You're alone with her. You're a little alone. What makes us think you're not getting into trouble? So Chazal, the whole basis of a chukas is really to break any romance or any sexual tension. You'll notice as we go along. Because, you're alone, the Yitzhara makes you forget. He's incredible. The Yitzhara is, I always tell people that we are on the door, you say in English, that's what you say? Because he went to military school, he knows how to get us, and we sit back and, he's a Chevron on the Yitzhara. So what does he do? He tries to make you forget your wife is a Nidah. So that's what Chazal said, you need reminders, and make sure there is no romance in the air. We'll see how we go along, you see. He said, Motzi Remes Lezech, Chazal found the Remes for this. When a mikra on the pusik that you're allowed to be alone. It says,
Reish Samach test. That's Reish Samach test.
he found the pusik, it says, Sugoi B'Shoshana. You know, the Sugoi B'Shoshana is a pusik in Shiurim. Sugoi B'Shoshana, that it says a wall made of Shoshana. So what is that the Chazal darshan that Shoshana is a rose, a red rose. That the Chazal said that if a wife tells a young lady, the Lashon HaGemara is a young lady tells a young husband that I saw blood like a rose, petal of a rose, it becomes a wall, and he wouldn't touch it. Okay, the Gemara says that the Knesset Yisrael is so proud of the Jewish people, and says, look how proud I am. There is no real fence, and you know what type of a fence they have? A red rose makes a fence. You know, there's a very famous story about the Tzedek. One of one's very famous stories. One of his famous stories is right before Erev Pesach, he went around asking the people in his town if they could get him, he needs some smuggled stuff. You know, some contraband. Rebbe, what you want, we'll get you. Okay, I'll let you know. He was 3 people, each one he asked for a different item. Then he went to another person and says, I need a little hummus. Rebbe, you know what time it is? You know what time it is? You don't have hummus? He went to 3 people, they all looked at him. Hummus! Rebbe, it's already chatzos. So what did Rebbe picks up his hands to the Rabbi and showed him, he says, how many guards are standing at the border and I can get whatever I want? And he counted that. There is no guards in the streets of Barditcher. I can't even find a piece of hummus. This is what the Gemara says. Sigi b'Shoshanim. He said it's the road, it's a gate, the wall for Klal Yisrael. That's what Rashi explains in Gemara Pshuta. Rashi says that a leaf is a red leaf that a young lady shows to her young husband, and that is enough. It's a wall, and he wouldn't touch it. So Chazal said, "Kedash Napasik." That's the Geder. The Geder he says. And Kloime Damnidus Ude Keshashana Syod V'Gei Dil Groshiso Shif Litziba. V'Shatira Toy the Yichad Anidri. Very interesting how the Rabbi says the Torah was Mata Yichad Nidah. Rui Chachum Lig Soy Lahachim Toisves Precious L'Sehiris Become the Buddha. So Chazal added to you see another lady. Chazal said, just don't be alone. You're not going to get into trouble. Just don't be alone. But your wife, you have to be alone. So in order not to get in trouble, they had to add a bunch of things to make sure we don't get into trouble. But I want to tell you something very, very important because of that. Tzemach Tzedek, this is a quote of the Kitzah Hilchos Nidah of the Rosh. So obviously he held that the Archokis is only said to your wife, Nidah. But another lady, we don't say this Archok. We literally see a lot of things where it says only your wife, but another lady doesn't apply. There are certain things that does apply. As I go along, we'll explain. So he says, and see the Makamad Guru Shemitah B'Shar Arois. V'ineh Guru Shechayim F'Lishma Yischik Leika Roishoy. Don't laugh and don't be lightheaded. Whenever I teach Hassan and the halachas, the first question they ask me is, Rabbi, the Sheva Baruch has not laughed at my kala? Don't laugh. The night of the wedding should become a Nidah, usually, and the 7 days, I always bring a raya from a Rashi to send the sukkah. Rashi says the chassan is potter from the sukkah. Do you know why? In the Sheva Brachas. The chassan got married at sukkahs. He can't get married in sukkahs. He got sukkahs. Sukkahs, he doesn't have to be in the sukkah. Why? Rashi says he's embarrassed to laugh at the scholar, people peeking into the sukkah. No, he's a newlywed and he wants to laugh at her. And so you see, he can laugh. So the Rab doesn't address it in Tzemach Tzedek. But there are many Elchonon who hold that this applies to, you're not make a joke, but this applies strictly for, as they say in America, sexual innuendos. Is that correct how I'm pronouncing it? That means it's not just a joke, a good word, a good humor. It's like where there is a little bit, I don't know the right word in English, where you are in the innuendos. That's what it really means. It's very difficult to say that's Pshat, and I'll tell you why. Because the Rambam in Hilchos Asira and the Mechaber Hilchos Eben Ezra says we're not allowed to joke with someone else's wife.
That was fine, it was different.
But this is very important. Many people don't know this. You're not allowed to be joke and lightheaded with someone else's wife. This is a terrible parents in America. In Europe, he knew, someone else's wife, you called Mrs. You didn't call her Chana, Rivka, Rachel. Someone else's wife was always Mrs. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. You don't joke. People don't know this. I don't teach any chumras in my classes. I wish I could keep the halacha, but this is a clear halacha. You're not allowed to be joking and lightheaded with someone else's wife or your own sister-in-law. Maybe your mother-in-law, but not the sister-in-law. But it's halacha. But anyways, he says you're not allowed to. So you can. Does again. Many achronim learn. It really means schot bekalasroch, which is really sexual oriented. More in that way it means. Okay, he says, you can't talk things that is arousing. So, newlyweds, so, I don't know how many newlyweds, when you're a newlywed, every little thing could arouse you. You get a little older, it doesn't go down anymore. As you get older, you notice you get sort of calms down a little bit. When you're the first year of your marriage, it doesn't take much to get you all cooked up. So it's hard to say your daughter, but you can't talk about topics that that's gonna tick you off. I don't know how the right word in English to say. What?
Turn you on.
Turn you on, that's the right word, to turn you on. So, sometimes, you're married a long time, you could mention something, it's nothing. But when you're newlywed, so you have to gauge yourself.
You better just don't talk in the first.
I want to say something. You asked for it. You always ask for it.
It seems like.
There's a Mishnah Pirkei Avos al Tauber Sicha Meisha. So the Mishnah says Meishta Amrei. When is the Ishtoi? It says one pshat learns when she's a Nidah. That's one pshat. You asked for it. But that's not halacha. One pshat learns Ishta Nidah means though they learn from that. Mishnah means that Tauber means things that brings you to turn you on. That's what it means. That's what it means. There is a Chassidim, there's a saying called Reshes Chacham. Unfortunately, many people don't know this. I don't know if you know Chabad.
We have to learn before we get married.
Chabad, the Tanya did not allow. The Tanya says this in the Gemara. I read it. That writes that he didn't allow to learn his Sefer Tanya lest you learn the Reshes Chacham. Right? That's what it says in the Gemara. So in the Sefer Reshes Chacham brings that Nelamtu the Miyu Hachshesi Mitoy. It's a capital Tilam. Nelamtu the Miyu Hachshesi Mitoy. The Mishnah is Nidah. Nelamtu the Miyu means. It means Nelamtu the Miyu. That's I closed my mouth. I didn't talk. So if I always say. So there's such a concept of Chassidim didn't talk to the wife of Nidah. I always tell this to young people when they ask me, they're from Chassidim. I says, if you make tikkun chatzos, then you cannot talk to your wife. Wife says you get up in the morning, 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, and you don't want to talk to her, forget it. If you are a holy person and you take tikkun chatzos, then your wife says, look, my husband's a holy person. He gets up in the night and learns Torah. But and her cheshbon, you become a chassid, that doesn't work. But anyways, the ikar, look what he's trying to say over here. What he's saying is the ikar is not to talk to your wife, but it gets you aroused. He says, so he says, you're not allowed to touch her. Pinky, you're not allowed to touch her. This is very, very difficult. You can't hand anything over to your wife. So it's not so difficult once you have all the children. When the first baby, I remember my first baby, she's 36 years old, my baby. And I remember when she was born, it was like, you can't give her, what should I do? And the baby's screaming, and you're flying in the airplane, and how does that work? It is very frustrating, but you really cannot give anything over to her, because Chazal say you might touch her. So he says, nothing, you can't hand over anything. So this is, this is a very interesting. This is a halacha which the Rabbi brings down, and as being married a long time, that's the best remembrance your wife is a Nidah. You can't give anything over. You got to put it down. You can't hand it over to her. That's
Why?
the most. What do you say?
Why?
Why can't you? Because you might touch her.
And how would you touch her if you give her a spoon?
Yes, you give it a. You might just get too close and might touch her. So Mamela, that is the best reminder. See, we need to be reminded. Because it's hard to remember. But the truth is, the Mechaber's ocean is,
This only applies to one's wife, not to somebody else.
Yeah, this only applies to you, exactly.
All these only apply to your own life.
That's
what you're
what
worried
we're saying.
about.
A few of them apply to other people's wives.
Oh, tough.
The truth is, in the Chayim, it's Mevur that you're allowed to hand over something, but he cannot touch another lady. Now, there's a famous Shua of Moshe, which everyone knows. If you ever lived in New York, I imagine you don't have to live in New York and every place. In the trains, you get into the subways. If you ever saw the subways, and I imagine you travel to the subways too, and you touch another lady. So why is that not awesome? So Moshe explains in the Tshuva that when we say touching, doesn't mean you walk in the street, you bump into the lady. That's not what Chazal meant to say. It's awesome. You directly just touch her. Hello. That's what it means. Put her by the sleeve. But if you bumped into her, that's not what we meant to. We're not talking about you walking by, and you all of a sudden bump into each other. But I'm talking about directly, conscientious, touching her with your finger, just, drawing her attention.
This is skin or this is intentional?
Intentional, just, pat on the shoulder. So you can't give him a pat your mother-in-law on the shoulder neither. I want to say, I remember many years ago, I gave a shiur, and people had the Hilchos Nidah and had a tape recorder before iPhone was popular. And a guy says to me, repeat it. Wow, but it just says, you can't touch your mother-in-law. He says, my mother-in-law insists that she needs to be kissed. And I'm an old lady. I said to her, tell your mother-in-law it's Yuroig Al Yavoy. You have to die before you do it. And believe it or not, he told me he helped. She played the tape, with her. She held herself from lady, and don't tell me, it's always these mom, don't tell me, I'm an old lady. So the din is to kiss another lady. Once I gave a shiur, and it reminded me of a French guy says to me, by us, a kiss is halal. So I said, that's what he says. So I asked him, how long is the kiss allowed to last to be halal? When does it become not halal? Tell me, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? So we have a Torah. The Torah says you cannot touch another lady. Come, there's no head to, and you should know there's no head to shake hands. This is a nonsense head that people have. No one gets insulted, no one loses business. I want to tell you a very cute story. And one of my babatim in shul, every year I try to tell the people that before Rosh Hashanah change one thing. This young guy has a lot of nursing homes, and this bothered him. I used to tell him, shake hands. So he decided this year, except a few years ago, no more shaking hands. So you know how the business goes, that you need to meet with the social workers, and you have to shmeed them, how these things go. And he says to me, and after Rosh Hashanah, he meets with the social worker, and he doesn't want to give his hands. And he says, really, I'd be able to shake hands, but the rabbi told me this time, the sermon in Rosh Hashanah, but he said, a lot of shaking. He said, I was always wondering why you shake hands. Your competition, he doesn't wear a hat, he never shakes hands with me. He thought that he was going to chalish on his back. He comes with a black hat or something he wears, and you know what I mean? And he told me since then, he never lost money. Never. It's just we think they feel uncomfortable. And I was told by people who became from about Jews that, women who grew up secular appreciate it. because they have to train themselves all day long, people trying to hit on them. So a lady once explained to me. And they appreciate it, but the full world, they don't have to worry about that. No one, you don't have to worry. And you say, I'm religious. I once went to a doctor, and I'll tell you interesting story. I went to a doctor, and the doctor name was Gross. I didn't dream that she was a female doctor. She was a blood test, the doctor didn't like any problem, she went to the specialist. I always make my appointments either the first or the last. I know you don't have to wait. So I made my appointment the last, and I called the nurse. She says, come another time. I come in, who was the doctor? She says, I'm the doctor. There was no one there. He says, the problem being alone. You don't trust me? He says, I don't trust you, but I don't trust myself. Tony says, I cannot be alone. And nothing personal, I said to her. Tony says, I cannot be alone. That's it. And she respected it very much. She left the door open. And, she didn't, I said, the Torah says, I'm a religious person, and I have a lady trying to shake hands. I says, the only lady that I shake is, only lady I touch is my wife and daughters. They appreciate it. Don't, you just gotta be blunt and strong with yourself. But nothing happens. Anyway, so Chabad said, Rabbi, you're not allowed to touch a lady. And again, you can, it doesn't make a difference who it is, his mother or his sister, you can't touch your wife, which is in there, you can't touch any other lady. Your daughter you're allowed to, your granddaughter you're allowed to, your mother you're allowed to, your grandmother, that's just about it. But sister-in-law you're not allowed to. Oh, there's a sister. Sister you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to kiss your sister. The Rambam says very clearly, from Chabad the Rambam, that it's a tipshus just because you don't have the Yitzhak of thinking that you're allowed to. Chabad, the Rambam says, Usalibos. It's very clear in Chabad the Rambam. You're not allowed to touch your own sister. Give her a hug or something like that.
What age?
Well, if she's very cute and you kiss her because they see a 5-year-old sister or it's a 10-year-old sister, it'll be a boy will also kiss her because they're cute. That's a different story. But once they become a lady, 12-year-old girl.
12, but
yes.
3 is about the yichud, but up to 12 is
You
not.
see, a brother and a sister, there's less problem.
Correct.
Less problem.
Didn't Moshe say that it's not their thing to be allowed to shake a woman's hand?
No, there is no such a emotion.
So it's their rules.
Yeah, Moshe's always blamed. They don't know something, but Moshe. The most Gedolim held that it's Yoroi Baliyahu. What does shaking a hand mean? It's a warm greeting. The French, see, we look at kissing terrible. A French guy told me, right, in France, a kiss is hello. So I asked him, so how about shaking hands? What happens if you smooth the hands for 20 minutes? I mean, where's things going to stop? That's why we have a Torah, you don't touch another lady. Okay. Okay, so geen al die strieken die jullie door hebben, hoe cirkelen een der is schok, you're not in the throat. So, years ago, 15 years ago, there was in LA, there was a Michigas, all young couples would play tennis with each other. And today, the next generation, a few years later, the girls are not interested in playing tennis. It was a shtick over here, I remember. So, there's a question, if your wife is a Nidah, can you play tennis with her, or ping pong?
Just want to catch it and get it out.
So many hold out ping pong is okay. I'm not throwing it to her. It's it's bouncing off. Can't say it's awesome. And you're allowed to play ping pong with your wife. You're allowed to have fun when she's a Nidah. And you're allowed another thing people don't know. You're allowed to buy a gift. You don't add new this. Someone literally asked me this yontif. Want to buy his wife jewelry, but she's not going to be clean till middle of Yom Tov. I'm allowed to give at the beginning of Yom Tov a gift. Yes, you're allowed to buy your wife a gift even though she's a Nidah. You can make a birthday party even though she's a Nidah. That's not our chokas. You know what I mean? The Chazal have their built-in chokas already. Okay. So he says yes. So b'kitzur you can't throw something at her. Your head down, you can't throw to your wife anything. Yes.
What's the pen says?
The Yesh Nahagim, so he said Yesh Nahagim had the lizard klapa mala. if you throw it up, high and it lands, then it's okay.
The baby.
You're allowed to throw things at her?
That's what I thought you were listening before.
No, I mean, can you throw it up so she can
Yeah,
grab
so
it?
some meaning that if you don't throw it direct and throw it up, then it's okay. He says, he says, you mach me about this, she wants to blow off feathers of your back, even that you shouldn't do for each other. That's also chumrah, but you shouldn't do. In short, you try not to touch each other. And you should know that you will. Recently, I was telling a couple they're coming from, and I explained to them they have to learn Nidah. So she's the one who says, "How am I going to touch? For 12 days." I said very simple. If you don't touch 12 days, after 12 days, the touch means a lot more. You get used to it. But after you separate it, it becomes. The Gemara says so. This is not. You know what the Gemara says. I'm going to tell you a frightening Gemara. The Gemara says, why did the Rabbi Shiurim say? By Zohar, after 8 days you have a child, the lady can go to the mikveh. But in a cave, it's 14 days. The
Original title.
So what it says, that if a husband and the wife, when I'm told you used to be able to go to the mikveh, can't go to the mikveh, then by the bris they'll be depressed. My wife didn't go to the mikveh. So Chazal Torah said that after 8 days, the Galushna Gemara over there in the Sugi says, because if your wife is also to her husband, then afterwards she's like a new color to you. It makes a new, revival, rejuvenation. I say English? Rejuvenate. It makes it rejuvenate. Someone showed me, a therapist showed me an article written by an English therapist. A lady, very famous in England. In the beginning of the book, she says, if I could convince my clients they should separate a half a month, but she didn't know the Halacha, just 2 weeks of a month, like the Orthodox Jews, I could save, she says, 50% of the marriages that I do. This is a shiksa writing. Now, we don't need a raya from that, I'm just saying the raya is, it is that way. Person, we all know that we keep the halachas, it becomes very, very, rejuvenates the marriage. I want to quote someone who's not from, told me, they were married, came up Hashem from. He said to me, I want to tell you something about mikveh night, he says, but before I became religious, I had a date night. I had to get dressed. I have to find a restaurant. You have to go to the restaurant, tip the pub. He says, and I have to do it because that's what you do. He says, now that we came through, I have a built-in date night which is never, ever comes close to what he used to have a date night going out for a day. Because it's just built in that way. You both expect it, and it's a whole anticipation, it's with Kedusha. This is a very bright lawyer told me this, very, very, very bright, he's a big lawyer, who came from just a few years ago. This is the Tauber was over a bit. That's why the more you keep the halachas, you gain, and besides the Tauber, you gain a personal thing you gain from that. Okay. Now, let's look at the next halacha. One of the things we talked about going out, there's a very famous Gemara. The Gemara Masechtas Sanhedrin says, Gedoyle legima shemekavus is beledu. That means if you want to go out, a doctors even tell me that they have business meetings, so they have to go out and eat a lunch, because we're talking about doctors, but I want patients, he should send me and I should send him, these things goes. I cover you, you cover me. So anyway, so the kids are, when your person, one of the things when people date is they go out, it brings a kid of halacha is what it says. Let me just tell you how profound the Gemara says. I don't remember the names, I'm saying about Peh. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, there was a Nuvi shaker who said, the Rabbi Shalom told the Nuvi, I want you to go to Beisel and say your Neviah and do not go back, do not eat and drink anything, and not go back to the same road as you came. he's about to leave, and the Nuvi Sheikh says to him, I just got a nevuah that you should come eat by me. He was a Nuvi Sheikh. Imagine, he was a interval, you know.
He was a Novi beforehand, and a Novi
Yeah, let's
after.
go back to the Sheikh. Someone should know that way. You said that he was a Nuvi before, but he was a Nuvi Sheikh. So he sat down and ate, and this Nuvi Sheikh got nevuah right then. And the Rebbeinu Shem told Nuvi, tell this Nuvi that because he violated his words, as he leaves town, he would get killed.
A lion will eat him.
As soon as he finished eating and walked out of the door, a lion attacked him and killed him. So then when it says, you see, B'doyna legima, that even the Shechina was shoyla. The nevuah that was on the kosher Nuvi, the koyach, came into the Nuvi Sheker. So it means the Chazal say the legima eating together makes the hearts, we know that. You go out and the family eats together. You know, the whole Yom Tov, you want to have a family, you want the friends over, it brings close. There's nothing so brings, you know, people have told me that the secular, someone once told me that one of the powerful things of family life is eating supper together. Because it makes everyone's together, you sit, and you know, you connect to each other when you eat. That's the Metzius is. So you're living along with your wife, eating supper alone, very easy to forget that she's a niddah. Very, very easy. So Chazal said, you have to make a heker. You have to make a heker. So the heker was that, otherwise, to remind yourself she's a niddah. We're going to see what the heker is. Chazal demanded that you should make a heker because otherwise you will forget yourself. See, one of the things the Yetzer Hara does to us, don't think. You know, your wife is, just don't think. So the heker is, again, a reminder, my wife is a niddah. So eating alone together, this is a big machlokes. He doesn't bring it down with Tzemach Tzedek. But many hold that's only if you're eating alone. And only if you don't show affection in front of others. If you're the type of a man who shows affection for your wife in front of others, it doesn't help you have other people there. Let me explain to all of what this is. Many learn that the reason you can't be eating alone because you might be affectionate to each other and affection would come to be intimate. Some learn that if the other people sitting at the table, if you're the type of a person who never shows affection to his wife in front of others, then you don't need a heker. So my kids, if you go to your in-laws, you know, Nudiveds always ask me this. I'm going to my in-laws, my wife is going to put a heker. So most places can hold that if you don't need a heker if you're the type. But if you're the type that everyone hugs and kisses in front of everyone, then you're in trouble. It doesn't help.
By us, by own Tzemach Tzedek, we don't have such a concept at all in Halacha. There's no difference. It means the heker on the table is regardless if there are people there or not.
It's the Shiurim, like the Rashman, the man. Can you just put it off?